to multicellular, and so forth. Is it possible for a single-celled organism to become multicellular, or are single-celled always single-celled? Andy, yes, single-celled always produce single-celled. Now I Googled it because I saw your question ahead of time. How did single-celled organisms become multicellular? Fair question. Among such transitions, the evolution of multicellular organisms from single-celled ancestors and the further evolution of cellular differentiation set the stage for unprecedented increases in complexity, especially in land, plants, and animals. Hold on, this is what you call a snow job. I taught school 15 years, whether you're atheist, believe it or not, and oftentimes you have kids answer an essay question. You can tell when they give an answer, but they have no clue, they don't really have the answer, they just are talking. How many of you ever did that on a test yourself? Now come on, be honest, okay? You give, the longer the answer you give, the more their teacher thinks, wow, he must know something about this, so you hope they count it right. Listen to the question, listen to the answer one more time. How did single-celled organisms, like amoebas and stuff, become multicellular? Among such transitions, the evolution of multicellular organisms from single-celled ancestors, which is the question, and the further evolution of cellular differentiation set the stage for unprecedented increases. Oh, they didn't answer the question at all, did they?
No, they didn't.
Didn't answer it at all. It's one of those, well, it must have happened.
They just assumed it, yeah.
Had to happen. Think about it. Read their question, read the answer. Okay, how about this one? What was the first multicellular organism on Earth? Now watch the answer they give. The first known single-celled organisms appeared on Earth about 3.5 billion years ago, roughly a billion years after Earth formed. More complex forms of life took longer to evolve, with the first multicellular animals not appearing until about 600 million years ago. Did they answer how it happened? No. They just said it happened. It's one of those SpongeBob. Just imagine. A single-celled became multicelled. Can't you imagine? No. I cannot. Astrobiology magazine. How did multicellular life evolve? Let's see if they answer it. Google today, March 15, 2019. Scientists are discovering ways in which single cells might have evolved traits that entrenched them into group behavior. Now, is group behavior multicellular? If 10 of us get together to lift a heavy log, does that mean we all become one organism? No. Okay, keep reading here. Paving the way for multicellular life. These discoveries could shed light on how complex extraterrestrial life might evolve on alien worlds. Oh, so it might happen someplace else in space. Okay. Researchers detailed these findings in October 24th issue of journal Science. Oh, so they published it in a science journal. It's got to be true. Got to be true. Who would argue with that? Okay. The first known single-celled organisms appeared on Earth about 3.5 billion years ago, roughly a billion years after Earth formed. They're repeating somebody else's answer. More complex forms of life took longer to evolve, with the first multicellular organisms not appearing until 600 million years ago. Guys, the question was, how did multicellular life evolve? You're not answering the question. You're avoiding the question. Aren't they?
Yeah, no question.
Watch, I'll show you a little more on this article.
Drive.
Well, they said it appeared, right? That's how, huh?
Duck, what? Did they say it just appeared, right?
It appeared.
Yeah.
Shuck and jive.
Juck and jive?
Shuck.
Shuck? Chuck? I don't understand what you're saying.
Shuck and jive. They get out of
Shuck
the
and
way.
jive, get out of the way? I never heard that before. Okay.
I think it's juke and jive.
They're avoiding the question.
Avoiding the question, okay. The first known single-celled organisms appeared on Earth, and then the multicellular came later. They're just restating it. The evolution, watch this now. The evolution of multicellular life from simpler unicellular microbes was a pivotal moment in the history of biology. The question was, how did it happen? Don't tell me, oh, this was a pivotal moment. How did it happen? They're missing the question deliberately. Pivotal moment in the history of biology and has drastically reshaped the planet's ecology. Again, they're just assuming it happened and going on from there. Go back and read the question. How did multicellular life evolve? Gee whiz. It's a good thing you're not my student. You'd be taking this class again and again and again and again and again. Okay. The evolution of here we go. Let's see. However, one mystery about multicellular organisms is why cells did not return back to single-celled life. Hold it. It's a mystery why they didn't return back. Guys, you never told me how they became multicellular. You just said, oh, it happened, and we're not sure why they didn't go back. Stop. You missed the question. How did it happen? Unicellularity is clearly successful. In other words, there's a whole bunch of unicellular organisms. You know, bacteria, paramecium, there's like bazillions of them in the world. You probably got 1 trillion of them in your body. Okay? No question, it is successful, I agree. Could you entertain the thought that maybe it was designed and it works really good? No, can't entertain that thought. I'm sorry, okay. Unicellular organisms are much more abundant than multicellular organisms. There's more of them than there is of us. I would agree. And have been around for at least an additional 2 billion years. Who made up that story? And where is the date on these single-celled organisms that they're finding? Said the lead study author, Eric Libby, a mathematical biologist. A mathematical biologist. A what? At the Santa Fe Institute in New Mexico. Oh, so what is the advantage of being multicellular and staying that way? Hold it. Mr. Libby, the question was, how did it happen? Not why didn't they go back, and not, boy, this made a good advantage. How did it happen? You're missing the question, Mr. Libby. To answer this question is usually cooperation, as cells benefited more from working together than they would from living alone. Hold it, Mr. Libby. If cells benefit more from working together than living alone, then why are there more single-celled organisms than there are multicellular? I think the single-celled ones are doing fine. And how did they become multicellular? Well, I finally found one website that gave sort of an answer. They said, well, there are 2 theories of how it happened. One theory is aggregative development. So the unicellulars just kind of aggregated together. Okay. The other one is clonal development. Oh, these are both theories. No evidence for either one. But how did this happen? So this website, Let's Stick Together. How did animals evolve from single-celled organisms? That's the question. Okay, let's see what they say. All animals descended from a common ancestor. They did? This is one of those just so statements. From a common ancestor that made the leap from living as a single cell to becoming something more complicated. I was in a debate one time, and I asked the question, how did life evolve? And the answer from the professor, I forget which one debate I was in, he said, going from non-living to living is a giant mother may I step in the evolution theory. It's a what? A giant mother may I step. You ever play that game? Mother may I? You got to be kidding. No, they're not kidding. Made the leap from living as single cell to becoming something more complicated with many cells working together. At first, such a creature would likely have been made from clusters of cells that all had the same function. Eventually, however, different cells took on different roles. Hold it. How did this happen? You're just stating it happened. I'm not buying that. I'd like a little more of the, science is things we can see, study, test, observe, demonstrate. How did it happen? And where's the scientific evidence? Eventually, they took on different roles, okay? And today, many animals have many organ systems. I would agree. Each made up of specialized cell types. I would agree. There are heart muscle cells and bone cells and nerve cells. I agree. We are made up of different cell types. How did this happen was the question. How the ancestors of animals transitioned from being single cell to multicellular, however, is poorly understood. I'll give you one better than that. It didn't happen. See, the single-celled organisms were designed to be single-celled. And the multicellular were designed to be multicellular. And it's been that way ever since, and they've been working fine. Working fine. Are there any two-celled organisms? I typed in. This is today, okay? The 15th of March, 2019. Are there any two-celled organisms? Watch their answer. Unicellular, single, organisms are organisms that have one cell. We knew that, okay? They are divided into two quite different types from different classification kingdoms. The prokaryotes, bacteria and archaea, have cells with no nucleus and a simple cell structure. Eukaryotes, oh, Mr. Nelson's going to love this one, the sun god. Eukaryotes have a nucleus and a more complex cell structure. Did they answer the question, are there any two-celled organisms? They avoided the question. Guys, where's this from? Wikipedia. Are there any two-celled organisms? Two. Are there any? Or three-celled? You told me there's two different types of single-celled organisms. That was not the question. Are there any two-celled? A single cell is unbelievably complex. Unbelievable. You could just study a cell the rest of your life and never learn it all. Back in Darwin's day, Darwin thought the cell was kind of like a little glob of jelly. It's just real simple. The more we get into it, the more they realize, oh my. The skin on the cell, we're talking real tiny here, okay? You probably have 100 trillion cells in your body. 100 trillion. There are only 7 billion people in the world. You probably have more cells in your hand than there are people in the world. Okay? Each cell is beyond comprehension complex. Just the skin of the cell looks like this. It has all kinds of interactions. Stuff has to get from the inside to the outside, has to pass messages back and forth, pass information back and forth, take in food, give off wastes. Each cell of your body is beyond imagination in its complexity. Why can't you say, wow, what a mighty God we serve? I don't have a problem doing that. I don't have a problem at all. I can look at a cell under the microscope and say, wow, the guy who designed this is smart. Like really smart. All of the scientists in the world combined don't even understand everything there is to know about a cell. Single cell. That's just to understand it. That's not to make one. It's just, how long would it take you to learn everything about a car?
A long time.
Long time. If you knew everything about the car, would that prove the car made itself by chance? No.
Not even close.
Not even close. Okay. How can I explain it differently? How did this happen?
Bro, let's go to the next question.
Okay.
Stop.
They're not going to get that one, are they? Okay.
Brother, we got a lot
Gee,
to do.
we got a lot to do. Okay, here we go.
Depends how you define how.
How do you define how? Okay. I can see Bill Clinton now. What do you mean by how? What do you mean by is? Oh, gee. Okay. Jonathan. Hi.